Hey everybody, what is going on? This is Daryl with Disc Golf Legend. I think I'm underselling the word legend there. Scott
That just means
Stokely.
that just means old.
Well,
And I'm
I'm
trying
the
to
legend
adjust this
then.
so I don't have a light right behind me backlit. I am not a cinematographer.
I mean, if you see my background, I've got some disc back there. I've got Catwoman back there.
Wait, the Halle Berry Catwoman?
No, this is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, wait, did I say wait the Halle Berry? Wait, Michelle Pfeiffer. The original Catwoman. Well, not the
Yeah,
original, but
yeah, not the original one.
the
Yes,
second generation Catwoman.
yes. First off, thank you so much for taking the time to be
Of
on.
course. Yeah, of course. Sorry about my unusual set. This is life on the road, life on tour. So I'm often traveling on evenings instead of it being in a location. And by often, I mean pretty much every night.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll get to the touring because what you did this year, well, last year now, was truly
Right?
amazing to me. The around the world tour, but we'll get to that
Yeah,
later. First
got
off,
it.
the question we always start with: how did you get started in disc golf?
No, I got started when I was 7 years old, and my dad had just passed away, and my mom would just take me to all the local parks. And one of them had a disc golf course. And at the time, I didn't realize that it was the only course in the entire world. It was just I mean, it was, you know, at age 7, it was probably just as exciting as to park with the big swing set. I mean,
Mhm.
it was a park activity, but it turned out it was the most historic place in the history of the sport. But didn't know it then.
Didn't you just go back to that not too long ago?
Yeah, I was there a couple weeks ago. I did a clinic out there. Went to go visit a bunch of friends: Dan Roddick, Mark Horn, Susie Horn, TDU Galdi. Um, Bill Nye, the science guy, came out to my clinic. That
Yeah,
was
because I
fun.
saw that video and I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, I went back there. We shot around. I got together with everybody, shot around one morning, and it was fun.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. Now, I will tell you, I didn't know much about you until like 3 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. You did a video with Simon. I guess it was at Maple Hill,
Yeah,
and I was like, well, Simon holds this man in high regard. Let me look up this man. I was like, wow, what was it?
yeah, it was.
What's it like being held in such high regard by so many of the younger players out there?
It's 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 actually kind of a challenge, to be honest,
Mhm.
because there is part of me that says I deserve it. I paid my dues. I put the work in. I scratched and clawed when we were living out of gas stations and sleeping in rest areas. But at the same time, that's also can cross the line into arrogance and entitlement really
Mhm.
quickly. And that's not who I am. I mean, I am generally humble and pretty down to earth. And so I also have a lot of aw shucks, in me as well.
Mhm.
So they're basically, I guess you could say, I've never thought of it this way, but I got two little voices on my shoulders. I got the one that tells me that I'm entitled to everything, and the other one that says, "Dude, you throw frisbees. Like, you don't let your head get too big." But
Exactly.
no, but look, I enjoy it. But I get it. I mean, I respect the people that came before me. So
Mhm.
when people feel that way about me, I feel that way about the people that came before me in the sport. So I'm just part of the chain.
All right, well, who was it that maybe you looked up to when you were first getting going?
I would say all of them. I mean, the locals like Joe Orsino, Jeff and Johnny Lissaman were the best players at the local course. But Frank Aguilera, Steve Bentley, John Wintercorn, I could list a whole bunch of people that no one's ever heard of. But Russ Hamilton. But then, but outside of that real close sphere was the Mark Horn, who was the 1977 world champion, and Scott Zimmerman, who won many U.S. Open overall titles, and uh, Dan Roddick, PDJ number 3, Victor Malafronte, PDJ number 2. Well, I was also friends with Ed Hedrick, PDJ number 1. So,
Oh,
like, so the sport back then was small. So it's like people are like, "Did you know Ed Hedrick?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I did." And they're like, "Wow." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand. We all knew Ed.
mm-hmm.
Like the sport wasn't that big. If you went to tournaments, you knew Ed Hedrick. If you went to the World Championships, you saw Ed Hedrick. If you went twice, he remembered your name. So it's like it was a very little world. So we all knew each other.
So, yeah, this one was going to be a question I was going to ask later, but this is a perfect time. What is the biggest difference between like 19? When did you first really get going? 86?
Well, no, I started in '76. I first played at Oak Grove Park in '76. I
Mm-hmm.
started playing every day in '81.
Mm-hmm.
See, I told you I was old.
Well,
That's
yeah,
when you.
yeah,
That's that.
yeah. To be honest, I thought me and you were like a couple years difference. I'm 51.
I'm 54.
Oh, see, you're just a wee baby.
Yeah.
So let's compare to when you first really started going in tournaments to what is out there now.
So it was just the Wild West. I mean, that's the only way to describe it. People were inventing the rules as they went. There was no standards for how tournaments were run. The tournaments were run the way the person running the tournament wanted to run them. If they wanted to give back 100% of entry fees, that's what they did. If they
Mhm.
decided to give back 50%, that's what they did. If they, um, oops,
Come in.
no, that's me. If they, we are just getting some air in here. Um, if if there were certain rules that they wanted to enforce, they would enforce them. If there's rules they didn't, they didn't. Um, just everything was just kind of on the fly. Like payout here, like even like a payout structure. You could have 20 people go to a tournament. By the way, there's no amateur divisions or anything like that. 20 people showed up, paid money. If 20 people paid $30 a piece, they might pay back 6 people. They might pay back 2. They might pay back 10.
Mm-hmm.
And how they paid back was up to the tournament director. If they wanted to give, if 20 people paid $30 a piece, it might be $500 for first place, 50 for second, 30 for third, 20 for fourth. Like there
Wow.
were there was no not doing that. So it was just like the game was being invented. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even though it had been invented, but no one knew what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
No one had experience because no one had someone before them running tournaments, basically.
All right, when you first got going, did you? 'Cause I've heard of this and I've never seen it, so I assume it's true. At one time, you just basically threw at a pole, and if it hit the pole, that counted.
Yeah, of course. I mean, before the baskets came out, that's what it was. It could be a pole, it could be a tree, um, it could be a fire hydrant, it could be anything that they wanted to make the target.
Wow.
There were tournaments where there was um, a ring on the ground. You had to land your disc on the ground inside the ring. Like they did, like no one knew what was going to happen, and so in fact, my first tournament I ever played in 1982. Baskets had existed. They existed since 75, 76. But this was at a temporary course. And because it was a temporary course and no one back then had 18 temporary baskets,
Mm-hmm.
the course was basically light poles and trees. You put 2 pieces of tape. You had to hit between the pieces of tape.
Mm-hmm.
And the obvious problem is, you know, I thought it hit below the tape and the person in my group says it hit above the tape. And whether you made a shot could be determined by whether or not they were your friends on the card or not. Um, I mean, there's a lot more sportsmanship today, but back in the early days, it was a little bit rougher. Like it wasn't even determined yet what was considered gamesmanship. Like what kind of things would be, like there was. I mean, I played tournaments in the early '80s where making noise when somebody was throwing, or opening up your soda or your beer and cracking it right when they're in the backswing of their putt. What was considered by some people just kind of like, gotcha, I made you miss, ha ha ha. Like just we didn't know because so think about it. Think about it. Right now we're a game like golf. There's a gentleman's sport. We self-enforce
Mm-hmm.
our own rules. We try to have good sportsmanship. in a sport like, say, football, you know, like all offensive linemen hold. It's how much can you get away with without being called, and that's not considered unethical. That's considered being a good offensive lineman.
Right.
So it wasn't determined yet which of those philosophies were going to win out. Fortunately, I think we made the right decision.
Yeah.
But but in my first tournament, there was one hole. I made a video about this where you had to land the disc on top of a picnic table. That was the hole.
Wow.
And that was the best hole on the entire course, because that was the only hole where there was no debate as whether or not you made it. Either it was on top of the picnic table or it was on the ground. So it was in reality the best hole on the course. So yeah, I mean, that's how it all started. In fact, the first I made another video and I got some information wrong. I said this was the first Frisbee golf tournament, which it wasn't. I need to make a retraction video. But before Ed Hedrick ran his first Frisbee golf tournament, it was the all comers meet. I think it was in '72. A man by the name of George Sappenfield ran a Frisbee golf tournament in Thousand Oaks. And in order, his idea for baskets was he hung up hula hoops, and you had to throw the disc through the hula hoop. That's how you hold out. And his idea is that he didn't want an area on the ground because he thought Frisbees fly. So he thought the completion of the hole should be with a disc in flight, not a disc laying on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And whether that inspired Ed to do the same thing, we can't ask Ed now, but it certainly probably played a part in Ed designing a target that was up in the air where you flew into it, not just landed on the ground.
What about the equipment back then to now? I mean, did y'all just use like the whammos that people use at the beach?
Yeah, of course. That's what there were. I mean, that was up until I believe it was the late '70s, and I'm not sure the exact date, but somewhere like, I think I'm gonna guess '79, but I could easily be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Whammo started making heavier Frisbees. That was the Midnight Flyers. They put phosphorus in the discs, and they made them glow in the dark, but it also made them heavier. And that additive is what made them golf Frisbees. They were golf discs, but they were called golf Frisbees. And I don't even know if there was an intention that there was a benefit to them glowing, or if Whammo just had a bunch of phosphorus laying around, and it was a denser material than the plastics that they were injecting into the molds. So it might not even been intentionally glow. It was just intentionally heavier. But that was the first step, right? Because those were less fun to play catch with than a beach Frisbee. They were more geared towards the sport. And then Discraft popped up and started making heavier Frisbees, and Destiny Discs came out with a line of golf discs that were not made just for disc golf. I mean, not made for recreational play.
Mm-hmm.
And then in '83, Innova, which I think was the biggest game changer, that's when they came out with the Eagle. Not the same Eagle that you would buy today, but the original Eagle they released in '83, which was the first commercially successful beveled edge disc. And that's really the disc. That's where the paradigm shift happened, because golf Frisbees and Jan Sobel's Super Puppy, they were a little better than previous. And a Discraft, I was out with the Sky Streak. Discraft was making good flying discs, but that the Eagle is the one where it just pushed everything forward like overnight.
So Discraft was before Innova?
Yeah, Discraft was producing Frisbees.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they were. I don't want to I don't want to quote the date wrong, but yeah, but they, their first. God, they had a disc out called the Phantom, which came out around the same time. It came out after the the Phantom was not Discraft's first flying disc. It was just that the Eagle was the specific golf disc, like the Discraft Sky Streak. By the way, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here. I'm prefacing this by if I'm messing up the history here, it's unintentional. But I believe the Sky Streak came out earlier, which was a heavier Frisbee, right? Basically a Frisbee that would be good for golf because it was would be a good golf Frisbee.
Mm-hmm.
It also came out the first really good durable plastic that would actually not just shatter when it hit a tree on a cold day, was the Sky Streak. And then the Phantom and the Eagle was very good plastic too. But Whammo frisbees, like they hit a tree on a cold day and it could shatter into 3 pieces. I
That
mean,
that's amazing to me. I did not know this history. This is awesome.
no, there is a rule in the PDGA book that says if your disc shatters into more than one piece, you play the largest piece. That's not for no reason. I mean, that happened. Discs would crack, they would eventually break. And here, a funny story too is that back then, Whammo Midnight Flyer cost like $7. Everybody just about that played the sport back then was so poor because it was very blue collar at best for not everybody, but most players. One of the things you would do when you got a crack in your frisbee is you would have another Midnight Flyer frisbee. You would cut out a piece, a little bit longer and a little bit wider than the crack. You would put it over the crack and you would use a soldering iron to melt that, and you would repair the crack on your frisbee. And the reason you did that is because the idea of spending another $7 on a 70 mold was it was outside of some people's wheelhouse back then. So you would have discs that were they were repaired at home. And by the way, we all did it. Or some people were better at it than others, but we all did this because we were you cracked a frisbee. I mean, what are you gonna do? Buy a new one?
Wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome history. That is so awesome. Do you have any of those old discs?
Oh, I don't own anything.
That's right. That's right. You're traveling. My bad. My bad.
Oh no, this is okay. So not an exaggeration. If you take away my work stuff, which I'm in a work vehicle that I'm driving, I've got merchandise, golf bag, tour clothing, like that's like my work stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you take away that stuff, every single thing I own in the world can fit into one backpack.
Wow.
I don't have a storage unit. By the way, my girlfriend, who's off camera, but she also, everything she owns can fit into one backpack, and a big, it's a big backpack,
Yeah.
but it's one backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have one shared smaller backpack with like our laptop and like medicine and stuff. But we don't have a storage unit. We don't have boxes of stuff at our parents' house. Like that's everything. So, the answer to your question, do I have a? Don't have to finish the question. The answer is no.
Right. That'd be just awesome to see one of those old discs all patched up and stuff. That would be so cool to see.
Yeah,
I guess they would have that at the Hall of Fame down at.
Yeah, I don't know. They for sure they should.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people have them. I mean, I've been in their collections. Here's the funny thing, though: these discs were so brittle that some of these older discs, people would have them hanging on their wall for like 30 years. And then eventually it would just crack and just split in two and fall to the ground because they were they dried out and just over the years they just fell apart. So some of the people that just happen to store their discs flat instead of like hanging them on the wall have discs that last a little bit longer.
Like I got behind me, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's like polyurethane golf discs. So those things they'll survive a nuclear war.
Yeah, them and cockroaches.
Yes.
So when you first got on the tour, I mean that was in the 80s, wasn't it? When you were going event to event to event.
No, I was a kid in the 80s. I didn't start touring like around the country until 93.
93. So what was that like? Especially when what players, when you first got out there going week to week, were you kind of like maybe in awe of, or maybe just like, wow, that's him or her?
I mean, back home it was Jeff Lissaman for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He was the guy back home. His brother Johnny was good, and then Jim Oates and other people. But I mean, it was Jeff's world out in California. Before then, it was Sam Farron. Sam Farron's was my nemesis as a kid. He's actually one of the top guys at Innova right now. Good friend of mine. I talked to him as recently as a couple of hours ago. We texted. Great guy, but he used to always beat me in the 80s. Um, but I would say all quotes are on always, right? But often.
Hmm.
Then when we hit the road, oh, Steve Valencia was another top player out there. Hitting the road, Jeff Malton was a huge name, and then Steve Weiskopf, God, Eric Marks and Slate Paul, and God, there were good players everywhere. And then of course, obviously, Ken Climo was. He kind of won everything. So Ken would show up and win, and then we would play for scraps. A lot of times it felt like.
All right, well, I was going to ask you about this. Is some of the players that you've played? I'm kind of going out of order of what I written down, but I don't care.
Sure.
Like through the decades, uh, you played a lot of great players. First off, what made some of these players great, like Ken Climo?
So the thing about Ken was like he was basically like a machine that was programmed um, with really good code, so he didn't make mistakes, like no glitches.
Hmm.
He he made all the shots you're supposed to make. Like if he was inside 300 feet, he was getting up and down in two shots. If he was inside the circle, he was going to make the putt. He just played mistake free. And the thing that made it so difficult is when someone's playing mistake free, in order to beat them, you have to play mistake free and make big shots also, which is something that would rarely happen. But when you play mistake free, when Ken had an off day, that meant he made a couple mistakes. And that couple mistakes doesn't help much because everyone makes a couple mistakes. So,
Hmm.
but that's probably the biggest thing. He just made all the shots. He doesn't give anything. He never gave away two strokes because he made a bad decision or hit an early tree and kicked out of bounds. Like that, he just didn't do that.
Hmm.
It was very annoying.
That kind of reminds me of current times Kristen Tatar. She just seems like a robot out there playing.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, that's she's playing better FPO golf than any FPO player ever right
Hmm.
now. So and she's getting better. She's still
Hmm.
getting better. But yeah, that was tough.
What about Barry Schultz?
Barry was he was the like he was in a way he was the first player I think to really have a power game and a finesse game. Like he didn't have a power game like mine. I mean nobody threw anywhere near as far as me, but he threw farther than everybody else or as far, right? So in other words, he was at the top of the like I'm an outlier, so I was out off in another place, but among the on the bell curve of players, he was like way up there at the top of the power players, and then he was also as good a finesse player there's ever been. So he had both parts of his game. And to be honest, he had the mental game to not be afraid of Ken. Ken was very intimidating to me when I was younger, and that was tough. I mean, I'm in good company. He intimidated all of us
Yeah.
because of how good he was. But I think Barry and Ron Russell, those are a couple of the guys that just actually managed to get over that mental block of like this is Ken Climo. But yeah, so Barry he was complete.
All
Made
right.
all his putts. He didn't make mistakes.
You just mentioned, you say Ron Russell?
Yeah.
See, I don't know him. Could you tell me about him?
Yeah, Ron Russell was the first. So Ken had won every world championship from 1990 to 1998, and then Ron won in 1999. Ron's the one that broke the streak. He was a touring player for Discraft, not a power player. He was like average distance, but just a great finesse player, great putter, but just a super strong mental game.
Wow.
You know, I mean, all these good players. I mean, basically they mostly play mistake free.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, I mean, when you, I mean, so I talk about players being mistake free. I mean, that's kind of what you got to do. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, and I'm far from the best open player in the world right now, but like this year when I was on the Euro Tour, I was um, in Skellefteå, Sweden, in like July or something like that, and I had a streak come to an end. Now, keep in mind, I'm playing world class pro tour courses in the U.S., the courses in Europe are world class. I mean, they are hard, out of bounds on every hole, obstacles, sloping greens, the whole works, right? When I was in Skellefteå in Sweden this past July, I got a double bogey on the hole, and it was my first double bogey in about 11 months.
Wow.
So the
I got
idea
two
of
today.
so so the so the idea of like, when I put these people over saying that, oh, I like they're like mistake free, they're mistake free. I mean, it really does apply to all the top players. I mean, all the top players don't make a lot of mistakes. So it's so when I say Ken was mistake free, we're all pretty mistake free. He was just even more so.
Mm-hmm. Now, some of these players that you may have played with, you may not. Dave Feldberg.
Yeah, I love Dave. He's the technician. His control over angles and like shot shaping. Like he's the player that could take an understable disc in the woods, throw the hyzer flip that does 3 turns while it's flying through the hole, and then control it while thinking about what kind of ground play am I going to get because of the angle the disc is going to hit when it gets to the target. I mean, he's thought through all that. Like, just so technical.
No. I've seen him do some recent things too. I'm like, well, he's still no slouch
He's
out
still
there.
good. No, he's still. I mean, he's unbelievable.
What about Nate Doss?
Okay, so Nate Doss I think you mentioned Avery Jenkins before too, or
Yeah,
on the thing.
I actually put those two in the same thing.
Yeah, so both of those played just after me. Like Avery started touring right about when I quit, just like Feldberg did.
Mm-hmm.
Nate Doss, he was, I believe, from Santa Cruz, and I remember I never let these guys live this down. So when they did an interview with him, he said that I was one of the players he looked up to as a kid, and again, I always make a mental note because I could use that against him someday. Uh, but the thing about Nate was that he had this uncanny ability to just win big tournaments. Like he's like like I think he's won more A tiers and majors than he's won B tiers. And I'm not exaggerating.
Wow.
Like most people chalk up the lower tier. They get a lot of local victories, local B tiers where they come out and they're 20 ratings of points. Like he wasn't winning those tournaments. Like he would lose a B tier and then go win the world championships. I don't know what it is. If it's just a statistical anomaly,
Mm-hmm.
or if he just didn't try when there was nothing on the line. But it was a very interesting personality trait of Nate. And then Avery, I didn't play with much, but I know that he crushes. He was for an era maybe the best power player in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly the year he won Worlds, I would say he probably would be. And he's a great course designer. All these guys are my friends. I mean, to some degree or another.
Why? As I know, you had an injury that made you stop playing.
No,
you didn't.
No. So this was, there was a number of things that led to me not like.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the time I was having back problems. I injured my elbow. The only time I've ever been injured throwing, and it was a fluke thing, but it got better.
Mm-hmm.
It was just one throw, it went pop, and it swelled up really big. But it was just like it hasn't happened before or since. It was just an accident.
Mm-hmm.
But I was burnt out and other things. But I just quit because my daughter was born. I didn't want to be on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling when I got a kid at home that I wanted to raise. I wanted to be there to raise her and be with her. And back, I've never, if I wasn't going to be touring and trying to win the world championships and competing against the best in the world, I didn't have any interest in playing.
Yeah.
As strange as it sounds, it's like the idea of just playing local tournaments and just showing up and signing autographs and having my back padded and like that just doesn't really do anything for me. Like I want to compete. I don't have to win. Like, I truly don't care if I win or lose, as long as I'm competing to win and I feel like I'm competing to win. But if I'm home, not traveling and not able to put the time in, and then I'm going to go to a tournament and finish fifth place, and like, I just, there was nothing there. So I was like, when I quit, I'm going to be done. And I was done.
Because the story I'd heard is you're talking about you popping your elbow and you just walked off the course, and that was it.
Yeah, I had to. I mean, it was like
Mm-hmm.
my elbow swelled up to half the size of a grapefruit. It was
Mm.
ugly. Yeah. And then I did a bunch of tests. It was very fascinating. I went and they were like shooting like electricity up my arm and testing how long it takes to get from point A to point B. I mean, it was really, the whole process was actually kind of fun. But that's not why I quit.
Yeah.
Like, I could have gotten back. I mean, the back injury made it hard to practice and train. Let's say not a back injury, just chronic back pain made it
Mm-hmm.
really difficult to put the time in. So and I was a little burnt out, but it was, if my daughter hadn't been born, I wouldn't have stopped for sure.
Yeah. What made you come back in? Was it 2021?
No, I came back in 2014.
Oh, I meant like the full time pro tour.
Oh, the pro tour. Yeah. So basically, the short of it is I, like, when my daughter went off to college, then it was time to you know do something with my life, I guess I would
Mm-hmm.
say. I'm not, and this is just, please, like, don't anybody interpret this as feeling this is like I feel like this is the superior way to live or better than or anything. I think everybody has to find what makes them happy in life, and whatever that path is what path you should be on. For me, I can't stand being in a house. I can't stand waking up and seeing the same wall every morning. I can't stand being in the same bed. I can't stand getting up and then, like, every restaurant in town I've been to before. It's just, I feel like, what's the expression? Like a bear with its paw trapped in a trap or something. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
just can't. I hate it. And so as soon as she took off to college, I was like, I'm gone. I will never stop traveling again. I took everything I owned that I couldn't take with me. I gave it away or threw it away and just hit the road. So I was traveling around, mostly focusing on teaching. So it's like, it's a means to an end. I enjoy the teaching. I like doing clinics, and I was doing lessons and seminars. But really, that was a way to have an income so I could tour, right? So I
Yeah.
could travel. And I played tournaments, but to some extent, I was almost playing tournaments to, so I was like 50 to 51 years old. I was playing MP40 and MP50 tournaments, and in 2 years that I was playing tournaments, I won 70% of them.
Wow.
And I was kind of doing that more than anything as a way to say, hey, look, I'm really good at disc golf. Come to my clinic. I am really good at disc golf. Take lessons from me. So it was almost like that was like marketing, but it wasn't really exciting to me, the playing. I enjoyed it. I loved the people I play with, but it didn't really get my heart going.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went to the Dynamic Discs Open in 2021, and that's the first pro tour event that I had been to, um, on the disc golf pro tour, and I was like, holy crap, this is the thing we've been dreaming of. Like, I was looking at everything from just the banners all over the park to this huge, massive gallery. We're in town, and every single business in town had signs up on their windows: "Welcome Disc Golf Pro Tour." Um, the media coverage, the media tents, like the whole works, right? And I was playing MP50, so I wasn't competing with the pros. I was competing with the 50-year-old pros, but not the actual pro tour pros.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that just got my. I don't want to gross you out coming from an old man, but it got my juices flowing. Like, I got excited. I was like, I want to, like, test myself against these players, and like, I want to go out there with them and see where I stand. Like, obviously I'm older. I'm not going to be at my physical peak. Like, that's not a secret. but I'm not a slouch, you know. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I still got something, and let's see where I can stand with these players. And so I just wanted to test myself against them. And
Awesome.
also, that was part of it. I also wanted to just go enjoy getting to be on this tour that we had dreamed of our whole lives. Whether or not I was actually up there on the lead card in front of the big gallery, like that would have been an experience that the timing wasn't right for that. It came 25 years too late, maybe. But the
Hmm.
experience of being out there on the tour, being out there behind the curtain, signing autographs, doing media, being on coverage once in a while, like I got to do that, and it was the coolest thing.
Where do you think, because I meant to ask Juliana this question, where do you think for you, like a 1997 Scott Stokely, where do you think he would have competed in 2023?
I think that I at my best, I think I was a top 10 player in the world. I was the clear number two for years
Hmm.
in the 90s. But I think with the level of play, the size of the fields, the level of play, um, obviously I'm not going to be number two. And when there's 10 times as many people out there playing, right? That just
Right.
mathematically would be highly unlikely. Um, I think mathematically, that would probably push me down to like number 20, you know, except all of my skills in the 90s were geared towards the modern game. I threw backhands farther than anybody in the world. I threw sidearms farther than anyone in the world. So I had a game for the modern game, which I think moves me up to in the top 10.
Hmm.
I think I threw as well as anybody on the tour. I wouldn't have kept up with putting. The level of putting is like I've never putted at that level. So I think that would have been my thing. So I feel like I would have been top 10. I think I would occasionally win one, but I certainly wouldn't have been one of the top several players. I mean, I just when I play with Ricky and Paul, I was never at their level.
Hmm. One of my
But
friends asked this question. So
but good wait but good enough but good enough to beat them once in a while.
there you go. One of my friends asked this question, and I hesitate to ask, but I ask it anyway. What is your opinion about your famous foot fault video?
I think it's sports. People make calls. Calls happen.
Yeah.
I don't have it. It didn't affect my career at all.
Hmm. It's one of those things I remember seeing, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, I'm still surprised that if a player ever calls anything on his card mates. I know I couldn't. I couldn't do that unless
Yeah,
it's
I mean
really, really bad.
the thing is that I can have one opinion, but someone else has a different opinion.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's sports, and in sports, it's not my job to make that determination. My job as an athlete and as a man is to just perform to the best of my ability and
Hmm.
behave in a way that I feel is the way a man's supposed to behave.
Hmm.
And then I don't control anything else in the world around me. Like whatever happens is, so I have good fortune comes my way, bad fortune comes my way. None of it affects my my mood, and none of it affects my my happiness. I mean, I guess that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Is this light? Oh, so yeah, so it's just one of those things that you know. I think my opinion's irrelevant.
Yeah.
I think
There's a
it's that.
bunch of trees that affect my mood. Okay. Now we're talking about some of the modern players. I think you've played against or with most of these guys.
Yeah.
Paul Macbeth.
Um, he's. I mean, he's the first rock star in the sport. He's a really nice guy. He is. And I think it's maybe less so over the years, but I think early on he was a little bit shy, and
Hmm.
then people got this impression that he was snobby, and it's absolutely completely untrue. He's a very good guy, but just some people they like being the center of attention, and some people don't. And when you don't like being the center of attention, people they read into that, and it's
Yeah.
unfair because he's a good person.
Hmm.
I like Paul. I mean, what he's done on the course it speaks for itself. I mean, he's on the Mount Rushmore. You know, where he goes on that is gonna. Everyone has their own opinions, but
Hmm.
I would say that he's one of the first two people on Mount Rushmore. Whether you put him first or second is that let the media debate
Yeah.
it. But he's certainly one of the first two names, along with Ken, that go on Mount Rushmore for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Comment below who you think the greatest of all time is below if you get a chance. Ricky.
So Ricky is. I love Ricky. He's also such a good kid. He is like I feel like he is like the best pure putter that I've ever seen. Um, and that's really hard to say because I mean Ken never missed when he needed to make a putt to beat me. Um, and you know, like Ken putted at Mach 3 baskets, so he couldn't be as aggressive. So he like we never got to see what Ken would have done had he played on Mach 5 baskets and he'd learned developed a putting form where he could be more aggressive. So that's why it's apples and oranges. You know, would
Mhm.
Ken have been as good as Ricky on those baskets? Possibly. Maybe he might have been better. Maybe not. But he didn't have a game that was developed for modern baskets, so we'll never know. Um, but certainly on the baskets we played, no one was better than Ken. But when it comes to like the modern game, Ricky's just he's the person that I feel like is the best. I know Marweed set all the records, but I've seen Ricky do it in these situations to win tournaments, and so
Mhm.
um, like technically, mathematically, Marweed's the best putter who ever lived, right? Isn't he?
Yeah, I know.
So
One of my friends has
so
a Merlin disc, and it says right on it, like
yeah,
his percentage or
so
something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the thing. So he's Marweed's like you said, Marweed is the best putter who ever lived because we got stats to back that up. And if you make that argument, you how do you argue against it? He just hasn't been in the position to do that when it matters, and so that's one of those like it's Dan Marino was he the best passer who ever lived, and he didn't play on the teams that got to showcase the Super Bowl wins, right? Like so, it's
Mhm.
just one of those. It's sports, right? We debate these things. Um, I will say that if if someone needed a putt, if someone needed to make a putt so you get your kidney, I still think you choose Paul. I think you choose Paul today. Like there's something about Paul that is just Paul. So it's but yeah, if you put a gun to my head and force me, I'd go. I choose Ricky.
I'm glad you said a kidney because I've had a kidney transplant, so please don't take my kidney.
Yes, yes. Well, if you need a new one and someone needs to make a putt for you, you know, like I mean, even right now, I mean, Isaac Robinson's the world champion, so Isaac Robinson is the best player in the world.
Mhm.
That to me, that's what comes with being the world champion. You get to be the best player in the world for the next 12 months,
Mhm.
and it's like I still like who's my favorite for next year. I still say Paul.
Oh,
I
well,
still, I still,
it's good
I,
because
I still,
it's his
I still
course
think.
that they're playing on here in Lynchburg.
Well, actually, the reality is my favorite. I actually, I'm pretty sure it's going to be me. But if I don't win, I still go Paul.
So you will be at the Worlds this year?
Yes, for sure.
Oh, good. I'll get to meet you because it's
Yeah,
literally like 10 miles from my house
yeah. Okay.
in
Well, then I
London.
will. I will be there. I will be there.
That is awesome. Um, Calvin Heimberg.
And and, and by the way, I will also be the betting favorite. I mean, at least in my version of my movie that I'm watching right now.
You know what? That would be some ending to the movie right there.
Yeah.
Actually, you
No,
know what?
Calvin.
Not ending. You know what? I shouldn't say
It's not ending. No, no.
no,
You
not
kidding me?
ending, but toward
This. I'm gonna win.
climax of the
I'm
movie.
going to win. I'm going to win Worlds this year, and it's going to be the first of my three-peat. How about that prediction?
Oh,
Um, yes,
next year in
yeah.
Europe.
Oh yeah. Oh no, yeah, yeah, for sure. No, Calvin Heimberg is first off, he's the sweetest guy. Like he has such a quirky personality. He's one of the two or three funniest players on tour. And like sometimes it comes out when you actually get him kind of like not in serious competition mode. He's unbelievably funny. Um, he is. Here's what I see Calvin. Calvin's going to break through in 2024. He's going to win a major, then he's going to win another one, then he's going to win another one, and the floodgates are going to open.
Mhm.
And so I would say that I don't see any reason to bet against this being the beginning of a Heimberg era. And he's been very good for a lot of years. So I'm not saying
Mhm.
he wasn't good before, but I think he's going to break through. And when he does, like, good luck beating him at the next one.
I mean, watching him, it's shocking to me that he hasn't stacked up a few already majors. He's
Yeah,
so
it's
good and
it's
he's so
it's so
consistent about it.
it's so tough though because like there's so many good players and it's
Hmm.
golf and it's like you could be the favorite going into the last round and still be a 6-1 underdog while being the favorite because there's
Hmm.
10 players that could catch you from chase card.
Hmm.
So it's like I don't think like I in my opinion the reason he hasn't like crested that hump is just a statistical anomaly. I don't think there's
Hmm.
any reason for it. Like he's so strong mentally. Like I think it's just one of those, it's probabilities, like results come in clusters. Probabilities don't like they lend themselves to clusters, good or bad. And I think he's had a cluster of not great rounds at the wrong time, but I don't think there's a reason for it.
Hmm. Eagle
He's gonna have
McMahon.
a Eagle McMahon.
Is he the modern Scott Stokely with the backhand and the forehand distance?
I mean, there's probably some similarities. He's a better putter than I was. I couldn't keep up with his putting,
Hmm.
but I would say in terms of throwing, there's probably some very, very much similarities there. Um, but he's another one. God, it's like as soon as I say like, oh, it's it's Calvin's era, then you're like, well, yeah. What about Eagle and Isaac and like the list goes on. So
Yeah.
Cole's about to have a massive
Oh,
year.
that is a good young player.
Yeah. So, but Eagles, yeah, he's got all the shots. He's got all the power. He's a favorite to win any tournament he plays. I mean, I played against him at the All-Ind Open, and well, here I'm going to ask my PA to help me. Would you look up the All-Ind Open? Tell me how many I lost to Eagle by? Because I played the All-Ind Open and I played a pretty darn good tournament out there. I averaged like 1035 or something like that, or 1040 to tournament, and I still lost to him by between 6 and 9 strokes. I think I still lost to him by a couple strokes around, having played really well.
He had
Oh,
33 under and you had 27.
so yeah, so I lost to him by 8 strokes. So I lost to him by less than 3 strokes around, which is pretty darn good to lose to
Hmm.
Eagle McMahon by less than 3 strokes around. You know, as a 54-year-old, I'm not ashamed of it or anything.
No.
But it's just like I don't think I left a whole lot of strokes out there, and I still was like 8 behind him. So yeah, like Eagle's pretty good.
Hey, my friend Ace Baby is in. It's her first live podcast she's watched.
Well, hello, Ace baby.
By the way, that's Rebecca Minnick, by the way.
Hello, Rebecca Minnick.
Uh, Isaac Robinson, the
Yeah.
current
Okay.
tour
So
champion.
Isaac blew my mind because I had him on the Christmas show,
Hmm.
and a thing about Isaac that I loved was that when he went into the final round of the World Championships, he was leading by 4 strokes going into the final round, and I still had him at about a 3-1 underdog to win. Just nothing against Isaac. It's just there was a like murderer's row of players that could all shoot a 1080 round.
Hmm.
So Isaac's like this 1040 ish player who still, if he had shot 1040, was going to lose the tournament. In other words, if he shot his average with a 4 stroke lead, it's not good enough because there's going to be spikes and you know the variance of what these good players can shoot is enough that one of them would have been over the top. And when I watched the final round of the Worlds, I was he birdied like the first 3 or 4 holes, and then I looked over and I said, "Okay, this one's over. We can just turn it off." He won because if it was gonna get to him, it was gonna get to him on hole one, right? He had
Hmm.
all night to think about it, and when he birdied the first 4 holes, you went, "All right, he's fine." So yeah, ice water. He's also a sweet kid too. They're all so nice.
Hmm.
Um, he surrounds himself with really good players. There's I mean, everybody on tour is good, so I guess that it goes for everybody. But it's a wrecking crew
Yeah.
of his people that he hangs out with. They're so good.
Yeah. And the last one is one of his best friends, I guess, is Gannon Burr.
Yeah, Gannon he's 18, or is he 18 or 19 now?
I think he's like 19, I think.
Yeah, 19 going on 30. Same thing, just fearless. Like the thing about being young and about being young and good is that there's nothing to be afraid of. Like, I mean, I'm not knocking this, not knocking anybody, but like when you're young and you either you live with your parents, or if you're young and you have a big contract, or like you have a great sponsorship deal, it allows you just to go out there and just go reckless and fearless, and
Mhm.
not everybody can do that, right? A lot of people make up things to be afraid of. And I think that there's players out there that because of whatever circumstances put them in a position where they could learn to play fearless, and it's made them so good. There's I mean, when we back in the 90s when you toured, it's like, oh my God, if I don't play well this round, I'm not going to eat this week. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like it's hard to play fearless because you
Mhm.
have so much to fear.
Mhm.
And so um when people don't have that thing, a lot of them, I think, they stop being hungry, and they get worse because there's no anxiety driving them. But there's people like Gannon that just and Cole that just have taken this opportunity to just play like they've got nothing to lose, and
Mhm.
it shows. And by the way, that is the right way to to do it. Yeah, I love Gannon. I mean, I like everybody. Every single person on the pro tour, they're all good kids. I like all of them. I really do.
Yeah, out of the people that I've met, there's very few that haven't been just will go out of their way to shake your hand, sign autographs for a
Mhm.
long time. It's just a
Yeah,
great community.
they're all good kids. I like them all. I can't wait to spend more time with them and get to know them. And yeah, they're cool. I'm
I
down.
did realize I forgot one person, and that was Simon.
Simon doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, that Lazat character.
No, that I mean Simon is so Simon is he deserves all the success he has right now. He put all the time in. He was the best at social media along with Brody.
Hmm.
But Brody did it coming from another sport. But as far as pure disc golf social media, Simon recognized the importance of that. And I mean, as good as he is, which I mean, it's sorry, as great as he is, he also has always recognized that in the modern era, there's more to it than just your performance on the course.
Hmm.
Like it's all about moving the meter for the companies that are sponsoring you or that you own, and the social media is a part of it. Like I made a post a little while ago. I mean, like a year ago. It was the 10 most important skills to being a professional disc golfer, and it was putting, Instagram, sidearms, Facebook, YouTube, mental game, backhand finesse, Twitter. And it's like everybody kind of gave me the laughing emojis, and I'm like, yeah, except I'm not joking at all.
Yep.
That is absolutely part of your business now. Your brand, your business is predicated more than anything on how much you move the meter on retail sales somewhere. That's what it comes down to. And so Simon's the best at that
Yeah, I was talking to Rebecca
for now.
today about that
For
very thing.
now. Yeah. It's
Because
everything.
like me and her, we were talking about how much social media is in some cases a bigger part than what you do on the course.
It is. I mean, look, there's here, best example of this is in mixed martial arts. And I'm going to date myself and go back a couple years, but the two highest paid fighters in mixed martial arts were both coming off two losses, Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz.
Hmm.
Like neither one of them was champion. They were both coming off two losses, and they make the most money because they sell the most pay-per-views.
Yep.
That's it. That's all it comes down to. Ronda Rousey, the reason Ronda Rousey made so much money in the UFC is because she sold more pay-per-views.
Hmm.
That's it. There was no other reason than the fact that she got a percentage of the money that she earned to a large, well, number one, by being really good, but then
Hmm.
number two, the brand she built around herself, the brand Nate Diaz built around himself, and Connor, it's brand building.
Yep.
And if you don't like that, I mean, I get why some people might not like that, but you need to build your career understanding that that's how it is.
If you want to go back even further, we can talk Tito Ortiz.
Tito Ortiz was a great self promoter.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He was good at mixed martial arts before people cared about mixed martial arts.
Hey, I trained MMA back in the early 2000s. So Tita was actually my favorite back in the day. So
Yeah,
cocky, so arrogant. But they said when he was not promoting fights, he would do stuff for sick kids and things like that. Go like Make a Wish, and he was
yeah,
really a good guy. But he would talk as much smack as he needed to sell the tickets and the pay per views.
and that's that is what it's all about. I have some, and I can't mention them now, but I have a couple huge announcements that are coming in the next 2 weeks. Like
Well, no one
biggest,
watched the show.
yeah, biggest. No, the biggest announcements of my career are happening, but they're both to a large extent happening because I've built a social media following of about 150,000 people. Like I have an audience, and the bigger your audience, I can do things that people that are better than me at disc golf right now aren't in a position to do because their audience is smaller.
Mhm.
And whether that's right or wrong or fair or unfair is just kind of the reality. So if you're a young player, your social media matters. If you hate doing it, then hire someone to do it for you and pretend like you like it.
All right,
Fake it.
let's talk about the Big Money Skins
Hmm.
2022, and you say the documentary, not just a shot.com, it's going to be coming out, right?
Yeah. So the documentary is already out.
Oh,
So
sorry, my
the
bad.
the yeah, no, it's all good. So it hasn't gotten the mainstream or big release yet because we started with a direct to consumer. And when I say we, I mean I didn't produce it or direct it. I wrote it, but I didn't direct it. Uh, but right now it's direct. So you can download it off the website. But
Mhm.
the big news about this that I just got to announce was that there is a film festival in Park City, Utah, in a couple weeks. Not Sundance, but at the same time as Sundance, that's the biggest indie film, festival in the world. Alongside of Sundance in Park City at the same time are several other smaller film festivals. They're smaller, but they're not small. They're in Park City,
Mhm.
Utah in January. All the same people there from Hulu, Netflix, Universal, Paramount, distributors, streaming services, Apple, whatever. They're all there. It's just a giant trade show. We got notified a couple weeks or a couple months ago that the film got nominated for Best Director in a documentary feature. So that is, we are going to be at the awards ceremony on the 16th, and the filmmaker is actually going to be meeting us on the 10th, and he's going to be doing a daily vlog documenting every single day leading up to the big award ceremony. So the whole idea of we got to pick out outfits, we got to pick up everything, prepare for this big thing. It's a real big moment for disc golf because they contacted us and they've already told us, look, this is when the limo's picking you up. Dress appropriately. You're going to be on a red carpet with media and paparazzi there as we get out of the limo. And I'm like, I'm like looking around like it's some kind of like, is someone pranking me or something like that? It's like, no, it's like this is a real thing. We're going to be premiering the film in Park City on the big screen, and it's a documentary about me. I'm going to be like on the big screen um, for studio executives, streaming services, media. Are going to be in attendance at this screening, and then me and Kendra are going to sit up on stage and do a Q&A. And then for the next 2 days afterwards, we've been scheduled for after parties, like industry parties, and then the festival has been scheduling us for meetings with. We have meetings set up with streaming services and distributors about licensing the film or the documentary, either to be shown or turned into a film. And this is all happening in like 2 weeks.
Wow,
It's
that is
unbelievable.
awesome.
It is so good for disc golf. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy. First and foremost, I'm happiest for the filmmaker Ken Drew because he spent
Mhm.
a year on this project. He's extremely talented. He is leaving his job at Walmart because he has his film degree, and this is his chance to not work at Walmart. I'm happiest for him. I'm certainly happy for myself. It's a lot of good publicity for me, and I'm excited. But just happy for disc golf, because if this documentary, if we're able to sell it to Hulu or Netflix or something like that, the exposure we'll get to disc golf is really good. But it's such a good documentary that it paints the sport into the most beautiful, positive light. It shows how exciting it is and how much drama there is and how much people care. Like, it's a really big moment for our sport if we're able to successfully, negotiate a deal with one of these companies. But we're in the room sitting down with them, having meetings, and we're going to document the whole thing on my channel for a daily vlog. So go to Scott Stokely YouTube channel. You'll get to follow the whole thing, and wish us luck.
ScottStokely.net. There's a link down below to that too.
Yep. And then on my Scott Stokely YouTube channel and Facebook and Instagram, like, I'm not shy. Like, everyone will know about this.
What was it like just going through that whole event? That course, by the way, looks amazing.
Yeah. The course is amazing. The championship course we played, which is different than the one they played at the Skins match this in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
It's so freaking hard. Like, the championship course is just, the way I can describe it is, if you want to be humbled, like, you walk off the course thinking, oh, I thought I understood disc golf. And it turns out it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's a very special place. Philip Samuels that built it did the best job building and Dave McCormick at Gateway helped design the course, and Philip put the touches on it. Basically, here's what happened. Philip Samuels had a piece of land that had these rolling fairways. It had lakes. It had trees. It had all the terrain, elevation. All that stuff was already there. And then he has spent $1.5 million just on the course itself. Not to buy the land and take out trees. It was $1.5 million after he already owned the property to build the course on. It's perfect. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. It's so good.
I mean, on TV, it just shows so beautifully. I mean, it's just gorgeous. So, I mean, what was it like going against those guys at that time?
So, it's the way I feel when I compete against them, because I competed against the top players in Europe, Paul, Bradley Williams as well, and other players on the Euro Tour. Like, I'm their fan. Like, I'm a huge fan of all of them from Sunday to Thursday and in the off season. But when I'm competing against them, I'm not a fanboy. Like, when I'm competing against them, they are I say the enemy, but like, they're the competition. I'm there to beat them, and I want to beat them, and I want to win, and I want to take money out of their pocket and put it in mine. Right.
Yeah.
Even though I give it all away. Yeah. But it's like,
we'll talk about that too. That's very important.
Yeah. So competing against them I switch gears. I go from I'm their fans to, like, once we get on the course, it's like, okay, now you're on my course. Now you're playing this is my sport. I'm the elder. You're playing. You've been invited to play my game. none of that's true, but I mean, like, that's the way I have to think about it when I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about that is, I had been sick. I had, I believe, was it four bouts of E. coli before then?
Yeah.
So I had 4 bouts of E. coli. I was, a week before the tournament, I was in the hospital. I wasn't doing good physically, and I just, the tournament before at Jonesboro, I finished either 1 or 2 spots out of last place. So I went into it at about the lowest mental point I could possibly be in, and I honestly, and I can't believe I felt this way, but I went into it hoping I wouldn't embarrass myself. Mm-hmm. I really did, because I'd been sick, and these are the best in the world, and I'm sick, and I'm old and sick. So it was, but then I played well the whole round. I mean, I didn't just have one shot. I mean, I pushed the Skins a number of times, and a couple really good putts to keep the skins pushed. So I played as well as they did that round. I mean, score wise, I would be probably similar score to them.
Yeah, I just watched it Sunday again before this, so we could talk about that. And I think a lot of people don't realize that you won multiple skins, not just that one skin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
So,
I won 2 skins earlier.
mm-hmm,
The big one I did because there was an 8 skin buildup to the big shot.
mm-hmm,
Like the 4th or 5th hole into that buildup, everybody had screwed up, and I had a 40-foot putt. I had to make a 40-foot putt. If I miss it, Brody wins 5 skins.
yep,
So I had a 40-foot putt, you know, maybe a little bit longer, but at the very least, a 40-foot putt that I had to make the push to skins, and everyone else was out of it, and I made the putt. So yeah, man, I was part of the game.
yeah. I mean, that was that downhill one where I think everybody went out of bounds except Brody, I think.
Yeah.
And then he just kept missing putts.
No, yeah, it was well on that one though. He put it right under the basket. I mean, he did the right. He said he was going for it. I mean, he might have been, but like he would have been wrong to go for it. Like he should have laid it up and forced me to make a 40-footer. That would have been the right strategy. But I hit it dead center, and so yeah, it was. It was fun. I mean, everybody made shots to push the skins. We all participated.
Mm-hmm. All
So
right, now the shot. You throw your tee shot in the fairway, but you don't have much of an angle. You go through the woods, and watch it on TV. Like I don't even know where you're throwing it.
No, I had about a 4-foot gap.
Mm-hmm.
So the basic thought process, and by the way, in the documentary, notjustashot.com, if you want to download it, I talked about this a lot more. Mm-hmm. But the idea is that Calvin and Brody were out of bounds. Simon was inbounds and was in a good position to get to the hole, but still a hard shot. I mean, he still was, certainly less than 50-50 of making it, of getting up and down for his birdie. But it's Simon Lizotte. He can do anything. He was in position. And basically, I had a great drive. I could have easily thrown the side. If I was playing singles, I throw the sidearm hyzer out to the opening. I'm about a jump putt away from the basket. Easy layup, par. Par is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that, and again, I talked about this in the documentary, but in my mind, it's like you don't get, like, in life, you don't get opportunities in front of you every single day.
Right.
And, you can make your own opportunities, but even that doesn't happen every day. And so when you have an opportunity, you can't hesitate. You have to just attack it and go for it. And then it doesn't matter if you fail. So what I looked at a 4-foot gap. And I thought, if I hit this gap, it's like 200. I mean, the basket's like 350 or something like that away, but the gap was like 250 feet away, 4 feet wide. And I'm like,
wow,
that's really small. I'm like, but if I hit the gap, I could birdie this thing, and that's my opportunity. And at least if I screw this up, I didn't screw it up because I played it safe, and then Simon threw a shot in, and I just watched it happen. So it's like I'm just going to put it in my own hands, and I'm going to do what I'm putting it in my hands. I'm taking the shot. And the thing about the thing that I didn't talk about in the documentary I wished I had was that had I missed that gap, I almost certainly bogey, and Simon wins the hole with a par.
Mm-hmm.
And so I also knew that if I missed the gap, if I missed a 4-foot wide gap 250 feet away, like everybody would just be like, I don't want to say laughing at me, but they would be like, what the hell were you thinking? So like the risk of looking bad was there, but then that's the trade-off for trying to do something great, is that the risk is equally as great. So the risk of failing and looking like an idiot was pretty big. Mm-hmm. But it didn't matter because I would rather have attacked the shot and failed than laid it up and then pushed the hole.
I mean, when you made that shot, when of course I wasn't watching it live. I watched on the coverage like a week or two later, and I'm not gonna lie, I got kind of misty-eyed watching. I was like, oh my goodness, he made it. And somehow I had not heard results, so I was so happy when you made that shot. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, I get a lot of people did, and I think a lot of it is that everybody had been following my story and knew what was
Hmm.
at stake and they knew that I've been so open about the difficulties, not just of that season, but in my life, in the past, and all the stuff I've gone through. I'm not suggesting that other people haven't gone through things either, but like just I've gone through shit, and then the season was like had ups and downs, and like oh my god, do I belong? And I'm so nervous, and I think a lot of people could empathize with the position I was in, and then were there with me. You know, there's a connection that because of the way I think because of how well, number one, because of my autobiography, people connected, but then I think the way I share my life with people allows them to connect with me.
Hmm.
And so when I succeed, it's kind of like we succeeded. If I fail, it's kind of like we failed. Like
Yeah.
if you're connected to me, you take the good and the bad. You know, if I fumble in life, you're you're gonna feel it too. But I didn't fumble that day.
Well, I mean, one of the things that really gave me that connection is that year in 2022. After every round, you would do a video recap of your round. But not only that, you were brutally honest with yourself about it and with us. And
Yeah,
I felt that.
yeah, and I'll be doing that this year, right? I'll be doing that this year as well. Yeah, I just being honest. You know,
Yeah.
I want people to see that you could succeed at life while failing a lot because
Hmm.
people think they're afraid to fail, so they don't try stuff, or they fail and it derails them. And it's like, no, you need to understand that like it's kind of like, hey, you look up to me, huh? Are you impressed with all this cool stuff I do? Cool. I'm gonna fail next week. Guess what? Fuck off. So are you. So is him. So is her. We're all going to. Sorry to cuss on your show, but it's like, but that's the idea. Like, it's like I just want people to know that that's just part of life, but you can succeed with the failures. If you try not to fail, you don't succeed either.
What made you finally say, well, I mean, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but following your trip around the world was
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, can you tell me some of your highlights from the different
Yeah.
places?
Oh God, everything's a highlight. I would say the biggest thing that I've learned is that I love disc golf, not disc golf. I love being in developing countries. I, I mean, we absolutely, both of us, we loved Indonesia. We loved Cambodia. You know, places like Thailand and Malaysia aren't really developing. They're approaching first world, but it's like, but you get out to the country, it's developing. Um, that's where my heart is right now. Is I want to bring disc golf to those places. The most beautiful people I've met my entire life, outside of maybe my frisbee family. I can't I can't compare anybody to them, but like just as far as people is like in these villages in Indonesia. Like we didn't go to Bali. We didn't go to like the Four Seasons in Bali. We went to a village outside of Batam. Um, and I love it. I want to bring disc golf to developing countries more than anything in the world right now. That's my biggest passion. Everything I'm doing this year is centered around I'll be announcing next week. I'm doing things that I'm hoping are going to bring me a ton of money. But the reason I want a ton of money is so I can spend it on these cool projects
Mhm.
around the world. I just that's been the highlight. And this is by the way, it's uncertainty. I mean, things like going into a village in Southeast Asia or Africa, or going into the rainforest in Brazil, like that looks like one thing on paper, but a lot of people when they do it, they go, "Yeah, that's way less fun than it looked like," right?
Yeah.
And so the idea of going to these places and like I thought I would like it, but we didn't know for sure. You know, like we're in Malaysia, we're sleeping on these things that are elevated above the ground on these posts, and they've got like this stuff on the posts to keep cobras from coming up the posts into
Oh
where
gosh.
you're sleeping, because these are actual cobras, like as in when they bite you they don't even try to call for help. If a cobra bites you, they just make you comfortable, and then
Wow.
you die like 8 minutes later. Like it's the real deal. And who knows if that actually would be fun or not, but once we were there we're like, this is so exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Want to hear a story?
Mhm. Of course.
Again, this is the type of thing that who knows? Like, how do you know what you're gonna like or not like? So we went to this this eco camp in Malaysia, outside of Malacca. Like about an hour, but it was right in the middle of the rainforest, and it's Malaysia, it's a real rainforest. And we're at this eco camp, and the we get out there, and we said, um, and these are the realizations, by the way, where you go, this is not my world. This is a different world than I'm used to. Like I know it's going to be different, but you don't realize how different until like these things happen. So we're at this eco camp, and we're just going because we want to spend some time in the rainforest, right? And we get there about 2 hours before dark, and we asked the guy that there, he spoke decent English. We said, "Hey, can we get a map? We want to go for a hike out in the rainforest." And he says, "Oh, that's against the law." I'm like, "Wait, what?" He goes, "Yeah, you tourists can't go hiking without a guide." I'm like, "Well, why not?" He says, "Well, because a lot of times they don't come back." I said,
Wow.
"Really?" I'm like, "Why is that?" He says, "Well," he says, "first off, there's 3 venomous snakes, all of which that if they bite you, you die. There's three there's 3 carnivore predators that live out there, including tigers." He says, and of course they don't normally like people, but sometimes they eat people. And he says, and then a lot of times tourists just get lost. He says, and they get lost and they just die. And I'm like, oh geez, this is like the real deal, right?
Mhm.
So we're like, well, can we get a guide? Because you're allowed to with a guide. He says, well, we could. He says, but it's going to be dark in an hour or two. And he says, you have to be back an hour before dark because that's when the predators wake up and start coming out. They're all nocturnal. And he
Hmm.
says, so an hour before dark, you can't be out there hiking because the predators are going to be out all night. And then he says, but we have this one guy that will take you out at night. And I'm like, wait a second, what do you mean take us out at night? You just told us there was predators out there at night. He says, oh yeah, but he knows where the predators go and where they don't. And I'm thinking in my mind, oh bullshit. Like tigers don't like have this imaginary line of like, oh, I'm not going to go over to that clearing. And I'm like, and he says, yeah, but he goes, there's this fungus out in the jungle though that'll take you to it that glows in the dark. He says it's like
Oh,
the movie Avatar. There's a fungus that glows in the dark. The only thing is you have to go out there like at night. And we're like, hell yes, of course we're gonna go. So he meets us up right at dark, and he gives us this little speech, and he's like, okay, so first off, he goes, there's no lights allowed. You can't bring your phones because your eyes need to acclimate as best as possible.
mhm.
He says the only light that we have is to have this little red light I'm going to shine on the ground on the path to make sure you don't step on a snake. Because if you step on a snake, they'll bite you and you die. We're like, okay. And he goes, now. So that's how we avoid the snakes. He says, oh, and he goes, and predators. He said, so here's the thing about predators. He said, the jungle's really loud, and you could hear it where we were. Like there's birds, and you could hear the bugs making bug noises. It's alive and loud. And he says, as long as the forest is loud, there's no predators. But if everything gets quiet, it means there's a predator nearby. And he says, so here's what you do if there's a predator. First thing you do is you find a tree and get your back up against the tree. He says the reason why is because you need to make sure if there's a predator, it's in front of you and not behind you. And I'm like, this is the real deal. Like he's not trying to like scare us. He's basically saying, here's the protocol if there's a predator nearby and you're stuck in the jungle at night. And we're like, this is real. This is really happening. This is not Kansas, right? We're not in Kansas anymore. So he gives us the whole spiel. So we go out there and we walk. And I mean, honestly, I bet we didn't go more than, I'm sure it was less than a mile. Like, because it's very slow moving because he's shining the light. And I'm looking for snakes the whole time. And he leads us out. The canopy is so thick that you can't see. There's no moonlight or starlight coming through. So I don't know what he's talking about with your eyes because it's basically pitch black. But he leads us out there. We in the middle of the jungle to this log, and he says, okay, sit on this log. Or was it a log? It was like a log. He goes, sit on the log. We sit on the log, and he goes, I'll be right back. and then he wanders off.
Like, don't leave me.
And we're like, wait a second. We couldn't have made it 100 yards in the right direction. I mean, I'm talking pitch black. We're like, I think we're gonna die. I think we just got left here. Of course, obviously that didn't happen. So he comes back in his hand, and he's like, all right. So he told us to close our eyes just so it was even darker. I don't know why it didn't make a difference, but he says, and we get back, he goes, okay, open your eyes. And he's got this fungus in his hand that's literally glowing in the dark. Like the movie Avatar, it's just natural bioluminescent fungus in the jungle of Malaysia. And we're like it was the coolest thing. And then so like we decided we're okay with the bugs and the predators. Like we like this stuff. We didn't know for sure, but now we know for sure. We can't wait to go back. So this coming winter, we're going to go to sub-Saharan Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, maybe Cameroon, which is West Africa, but I got a friend there. And we're not going to be in the city. We're going to be out in the jungle, right? Out with the, that's what we love. We didn't know we would love it, but that's become our happy place.
That is incredible.
Kind of a long story. Sorry if
no, that is awesome. I mean, I would be terrified when the man just walks away.
We were, but we were. Well, the thing is, it's not like there's the difference is that, I mean, okay, look, there's not a lot of tigers. They're nearly extinct. We're probably not going to be eaten by a tiger mathematically, statistically, right? But it's not like being afraid of a roller coaster or being on a high chairlift, which is like fake danger. Like there's you know, skydiving. That's not actually dangerous. It's like technically it's safe. This is actually tourists go missing, and we're like, this is real. There are, you know, like it's not make believe danger like America. We're so safe here, mostly, right? It's like, no, this is, you know, you're not legally allowed to go hiking for yourself because it's bad for tourism when tourists disappear.
Yeah. Now, when you go to those places, do you take? I'm assuming you take discs with you. Do you take anything else?
No. We did all of Asia, all of Southeast Asia and Japan with just 2 backpacks. Mm-hmm. All I had with me was 4 bergs. Mm-hmm. And that was only so I could just get regular throwing in. You know, mm-hmm. I had 4 discs that didn't fly far, that when every once in a while I'd go to a park and I would throw, but we weren't there to golf.
Well, no, I mean, I thought you might be there to show other people. Is what I was
No. I mean, I played 4 tournaments. I think I win? I won most of them. Anyways, I played some tournaments. I won. I played 4 and won 2. Mm-hmm. Cambodian. But no, so that's no. When we're doing the tour, I'm not a golfer then. I mean, what I want to do is I want to bring disc golf to these places, but that's a whole different type of project. But just when I'm out and about, we're just being explorers, nomads.
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe you're like going out showing people while you're touring. You know, showing like some kids out there that have never seen a frisbee.
When I'm out playing, there's always people that gather around, but it's not a formal thing for sure. Mm-hmm. That people are always, you know, they're curious, but you know.
One thing I did, I skipped over it. Doggone it. 2022, you raised money for a charity. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. It's actually for 3 years. It's been 3 years now, and it'll be this year. So this will be my 4th year. Every tournament I play, before the tournament, I name some organization, and then whatever I win in the tournament just gets donated to the organization. So technically, I'm an amateur. I've been playing for no prize money for almost 4 years now. It's just something I like to do. Mm-hmm. I'm in this really good position. I make great money with my teaching, so I'm not taking food off my plate to do this, but it's just something that's fun to do. And it just kind of takes, for me, it's just fun to take that off the table. Mm-hmm. Now I just play and it doesn't even matter. And then of course it helps disc golf because, you know, it'll be in the local paper that a disc golfer did this. Like no one cares that it's me.
Mhm.
as far as like in the community. They just know that there was a disc golfer that did this thing. It's good PR, you know. It's mostly been special needs, autism and special needs organizations, but this last year, a lot of it was towards disc golf in developing countries. So this coming year, I'll be mixing up between special needs organizations and disc golf in developing countries. But it was cool. Like I managed to put a disc golf course in Ukraine. I'm not sure what happened. There was a course there. I'm not sure what happened to it. There was a course there, and then at some point it was no longer there for some reason. I don't follow the news, but
Mhm.
I was able to, with my tournament winnings, put a course in the ground, which I was very proud of. Disc golf Philippines. Where else? Cambodia. I did a bunch of stuff in Cambodia. Oh, and Thailand too, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of where I hate money. I
Wow.
mean, I hate, I hate not having money more, but now that I'm doing well and I'm,
Mhm.
I guess you'd consider me financially
Mhm.
successful at this point with my business, then I can just spend more money on cool stuff like giving it away.
Mhm. I mean, I love the fact that you do that. I mean, there's so many people, they just want to build wealth, but giving back to me is even better. It's so much better.
Well, so here's the thing though. I'm in a unique position.
Mhm.
Like I'm 54 years old, and the majority of 54-year-olds not only can't do what I do as far as giving the money away, they
Mhm.
shouldn't do what I'm doing because they've got a finite number of years left they can work. If they're not financially secure, ready to retire, they need to be building towards that. There's a lot of reasons um, why you shouldn't be giving away your money.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm just in a different position because when I do with my teaching at this point, I can basically make as much money as I want. I can just basically schedule a bunch of clinics and hey, I'm doing 10 clinics across Texas and I'll charge $25 a person and 50 people a clinic will show up and I can make money tomorrow. So that allows me to do things that I wouldn't otherwise be able to if I was in my last 5 years of my career at a regular job. So, it's a situational thing that other
Mhm.
people, they're not in that position, right?
Mhm. Okay.
But it's fun though. I like it though. I'm an amateur. I've been an amateur for 3 years.
Hey, just like me.
Hey, there we go.
All right. One last question. I mean, I think, gosh, it's almost been almost an hour and a half. Wow, it's gone by quick. Um, when you play your last tournament round, if you can pick the people on your card, who would you pick?
Okay, so here's the thing. Um, it'll probably be at that point in my life, it'll be the three best players in the world. So it'll be Gannon Burr, Cole Redolin, and Dallas Garber, and myself.
For
And
the top four in the world.
yeah, we'll be the top four players in the world. And but since I'm not ever going to stop, then it's not something I can prepare. Like I'm not going to have a farewell tour where like,
Mhm.
hey, this is my last tournament, everybody. Like I'm going to go until I drop. So so I can't predict it because I'm not scheduling an end date.
Mhm. I love that.
So, but go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean I'm never going to stop like traveling. Like
Mhm.
I will never have a home ever for the rest of my life. I will never live someplace. I will just travel because I'm not happy when I'm not doing this.
Mhm.
I'm
Like
I'm
cooped
I'm
up like a
only
bird in a cage.
I just can't. I gotta like I just variety. I need something different tomorrow.
Mhm.
Like the stuff we do, like, and by the way, this will all be, I guess, documented soon enough. We're going to start doing this vlog thing. But when we go to a course from the hotel, like we'll drive a different way to the course each day if we can, just to be on a different street. We will, and we're both the same exact personality. Me and my girl, we, honest to God, would rather have a shitty day tomorrow doing something new than do something tomorrow that we've done before that we know is awesome. like I would still enjoy the new experience over anything I've done before. Um,
That is awesome.
that's just my personality. Like I just like variety and everything.
That is great. Well, I appreciate your time. I've had an
You got
absolute
it, man.
blast. Let's
I'm
talk
glad.
about your links down below. Not just another shot.com,
No, not just a shot.
not just a shot.com, not just a
Yep.
shot.com.
Yep, that's the documentary. That's Kendra Mueller's documentary.
Mhm.
But you go to scottstokely.net, you'll find everything about my clinics, my teaching, my Discord server, Scott Stokely. scottstokely.net/Discord. We got a good community. We got about 1,200 people in there now. This is like my inner circle of people that are the first to hear press releases and news. And I got like the big announcements I have coming. I'll be announcing them first in Discord. I got a free training app in there. I've got an online class where people could get better at disc golf. I'm launching a fitness channel that's going to be free for everybody just to get into better shape, get healthier. A lot of stuff going on there. Aside from the online class, the vast majority of it's free.
Mhm.
So you can just go participate. It doesn't cost you nothing. And you can download this cool app and do putting games with your friends and stuff. So
That's awesome. Well,
yeah,
Scott,
having
thank you
fun.
so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. I hope everybody that gets to watch it in post or was here with us today, thank you all so much for joining us and
Yep. Thanks
in
everybody.
post. And you
And
got
then
anything
when
else
you
to
can,
say?
yeah, when you can come watch me on the lead card at the World Championships in Virginia this year.
Oh, I'll be there. I mean, I expect a handshake.
Yeah, you'll have to remind me. I'll be honest and don't be offended if I don't remember you by then. I will have met like 1,700 people between now and then. So
I mean, look at that.
no.
I totally understand. I
Just
totally
remind
understand.
me. Yeah.
I am
All right.
someone that I can kind of remember a face. Names I am brutal with. I am brutally bad.
I don't even try because like the amount of effort it takes and there's no payoff because I just meet
Mhm.
so many people.
Mhm.
Every time I do a clinic, if I do 10 clinics, like I'll meet another 500 people at those 10 clinics. And it's like, it's just not possible. Like I just kind of just go, I'm sorry.
Totally understand.
So cool.
And
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate everything. We got a 4-hour drive I think we're going to Vegas, right? Yeah, we're driving to Las Vegas right now. Getting ready. The film festival's in like 2 weeks. So in
dude,
fact, it's 2 weeks from today. Yeah, 2 weeks from today is the award ceremony. So tune in to see if we win.
definitely. And good luck with that. And
Thank
I'm
you.
hoping you get with Netflix or somebody. That would be
I hope
awesome.
so
That
too.
out there.
I hope so too. I would love that. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of other people out there that want the same thing. So
Yep.
hopefully it's us.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
See
And
you
you
guys.
guys
Bye,
have an
everybody.
incredible day.